What if we told you that Cracker Barrel is scrubbing away the woke stuff on their webpage as fast as they possibly can? And we're hearing now that there's a scramble even beyond that in their own stores and restaurants to reassure their employees that everything's going to be okay as patrons no longer frequent that old country store. We've got more on what's going on with Cracker Barrel and how their CEO put them in a hole they may never come back from again. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a swell kind of day to have you joining us on our way, explaining entertainment, keeping you ahead of the culture curve. And yes, we're stopping on by the old country store that is Cracker Barrel. Uncle Herschel's back, but the Pride stuff on the website is gone. Let's dive in and we'll bring you the dumplings you need to know about. Click the like button, and here we go about another story of the demise of Cracker Barrel. Folks, take a look at this. Cracker Barrel is continuing with the issues that they are dealing with. Cracker Barrel is taking down, or has taken down, the Pride page on its website amid rebrand fiasco. This is by David Spector, out of Fox Business, hosted by New York Post. It says Cracker Barrel has quietly removed the Pride page from its website after facing consumer backlash over its rebranding efforts. The website link for Cracker Barrel's Pride page, which used to boast that the company was bringing the porch to Pride, now redirects to its culture and belonging page, almost like when Disney got rid of its Reimagine Tomorrow. At Cracker Barrel, welcoming people has always been at the heart of who we are. When we take care of one another, we are able to take even better care of the people who walk through our doors, the page says, which is rather ambiguous and nebulous. The company has been under intense scrutiny by conservative activists, including Robbie Starbuck and Chris Rufo, who was the Disney guy, there you go, over its past causes. Cracker Barrel previously sponsored the Nashville Pride Parade in 2024 and unveiled a line of rainbow-colored rocking chairs for Pride Month. The company also has an employee resource for those who might enjoy it, called the LGBT blah, 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 blah Alliance, along with groups for veterans and other communities. And you can see there, Cracker Barrel had been putting out, stuff like this, where they make the rocking chairs into the flag colors. So there you go. Cracker Barrel clearly is working hard to scrub away the issues of the day. The problem for Cracker Barrel is we are hearing that this makeover they bought into has a $700 million price tag, which is more than half of the market capitalization of Cracker Barrel itself, which as of a couple of days ago, but could be lower now, was about $1.2 billion. So Cracker Barrel made a $700 million investment to do all of this stuff. And the problem is that they can't exactly back out of that all the way because items have been ordered. Stores are contracted to be rebranded. So Cracker Barrel seems to be doing the superfluous things that won't cost them big money. For example, they can take off a page on their website, or they can put the logo back to the way it was on the menus because menus are cheap to print. But the stuff that they're stuck with seems to me to be stuff that's going to be damaging the company for a long time. Now, how bad is it? Well, I reached out to some folks who have some inside information when it comes to Cracker Barrel. This is speculation and rumor because I wasn't there, but I'm hearing that across Cracker Barrels that they are holding emergency meetings with employees in order to reassure servers and cooks and chefs and all of that they're reassuring their servers because attendance at Cracker Barrels is plummeting and they're trying to assure them that things will be okay. So I'm hearing that they're having emergency meetings and have been for the last 24, 48 hours. I don't know how they get out of this yet because so far, Mark, the changes coming to Cracker Barrel appear to be the things that they can do cheaply, but they bet the farm. I mean, $700 million for a company this small, they went all in. This crazy, wacky CEO, against the advisement of some of the board members, she went totally 1,000% in on woke. At a time we've seen what happened with Bud, we saw what happened with Jaguar, and she said, hold my mimosa. Your thoughts on it, Mark?
This is something. And let me start with, I have an MBA. I got an MBA from one of these big business schools, and I worked in one of these woke organizations. And people don't necessarily understand exactly what woke is. We've talked about this on your show. It's not just the DEI stuff. It's not just the LGBT stuff. It's a reordering of the decision-making in a large corporation around basically feel-goods and consensus and emotion, and not around objective fact. And so when you look at something like Bud Light, it's very easy to dismiss that as, oh, look, a whole bunch of transphobic Americans. Now, I will say that Americans are relatively anti-trans. If depending on the question, it's like 60-30. And when we asked about Bud Light specifically, people said 40% said they consume less Bud Light, 20% more. So that gives you generally an idea. The problem with Bud Light is that it was also about the company not understanding their customer, and that got lost in the shuffle because they made it about trans. Now, this article also makes it about the trans and rainbow stuff, but that's not what this was. This wasn't Robbie Starbuck breaking news. This was Twitter puking over the redesign. Then they found out all of this DEI and LGBT stuff after the fact. And so America, I think, was rebelling against, like what you're putting up here is a very globo homo gloss over. You know, we're all going to be eating at restaurants that have a 2-color logo that looks like the same thing, and it all looks like it was designed by Joanna Gaines. Like
blandification.
Exactly. And that's what's happening to entertainment, and that's what's happening. And I'll tell you, there's a more insidious fact about the numbers here too. And what my take on why this is happening based on feedback is that people are actually upset with the quality of the product because the food's been going downhill because they've been trying to squeeze every cent of margin that they can out of these restaurants. So they don't make any of this stuff fresh anymore. They open up a bag and they reheat it and it tastes like crap. And so people have been going there less. But when you take a $700 million investment in a rebrand, what you can do is capitalize that and bury it underneath EBITDA because you took on debt and blah, blah, blah. And so instead of understanding their customer and fixing the core customer experience problem, which is that the restaurants aren't good anymore, they try and bury it under some glossy new globo homo investment that looks good on somebody's resume, but it doesn't fix the business. Now, I don't know. I hadn't heard that about the board not being behind this because I think she's only been there 2 years. And I suspect she was brought on specifically to do this redesign. But what I can tell you is the woke rock goes deep. Every company is like this. They make the decisions that feel good. They put customers last. And it's going to destroy a whole lot of shareholder value and ruin a whole lot of products that Americans love.
Yeah, my understanding, Mark, is there's one in particular large investor who had said, this is folly. I think was the exact quote, and somebody can look that up if they want to. But it said this was folly and had clued them in that this would not work. To give people an idea of just what a headache is going to be for Cracker Barrel and why logistically it's almost impossible for them to stop what they're doing. Cracker Barrel stores are filled to the brim. Their walls are covered in antiques, and those are legitimate, real antiques, right? They have these items, this inventory that they've collected over the last 40, 50 years through yard sales, garage sales, estate sales, etc. They're authentic pieces from the 1920s and 30s, etc. Cracker Barrel, when it first started off, was a themed restaurant. It's never not been a themed restaurant. When it came out in, I think, 1969 and through the 70s, it was fashioned to look like a mercantile store from the 1930s. So it's always been themed to a different time. That was purposeful. Now, with this redesign, what they've essentially done is they were going to Hobby Lobby it, right? And I don't have any problem with Hobby Lobby, but the idea was to fill it, and you can see there, Vash, if you could go back about 3 seconds so people can see that. On the walls is a bunch of stuff that's kind of plasticky and fake, right? That stuff's, a lot of that's not real. It's just made to look older. They were going to cover the walls with that. Well, they have a giant warehouse apparently in Lebanon, Tennessee. And the giant warehouse is where they keep all of those antiques, and they can put antiques in the stores, etc. So they had all this plan in place to get rid of all of that. So how do you stop that if you've already got the logistics in place to discard this vast array of authentic antiques and relics and all of this stuff, and you've bought and you've contracted out all this fake crap, to put on the walls? They're stuck. I mean, it's not just white paint. They are stuck in a really bad place here, and I don't know how they get out of it. Nat, what are your thoughts as we watch the blandification? And as Mark was pointing out, what should we say, Mark? What do you want to call it again? What's your terminology for what we're doing to our corporations?
Globo homo gloss over, I guess, is what I would call this. But I mean, it's all going to be bland and stale and corporatized because that's what they've determined makes the most money, and they don't have conviction. And they hire and force out the people that do have conviction.
All right, Nat, it's all you now. You got to hit a home run with globo homo-ification.
And I do think we also saw it with McDonald's and a lot of other iconic American
Pizza Hut.
places to eat pizza everywhere. They've done this corporatization, but now, and as we were talking just before about younger men and what they're searching for and having a lot of apathy, I think this feeds into maybe this resurgence of wanting authenticity and wanting, traditional old style, something that harkens back to a different time. That's not this global homo corporatized boring stuff that they see over and over again. And I think also that's why they're turning to YouTube, they're turning to different media that's not giving them the corporate boring annoying stuff that it has completely changed everything they already knew, they kind of knew about because they're younger. And now it's even worse because now everything looks exactly the same.
Absolutely. We're watching this Cracker Barrel situation. It seems to me that they can only sever what is cheap enough for them to do. I don't sense that they're ready to drop out of this redesign. And Jonas, one of the problems with the redesign is if they had just, there's the strategy of the boiling pot with the frog, right? The idea is that if you do things slowly enough, people will ease into a transition. And so with Cracker Barrel, if they had painted just the what do you call it, the general store side of it, if they had the gift shop, whatever you want to call that area in Cracker Barrel when you first walk in, if they had just brightened that up, nobody would even cared. This is not a story. But it was the wholesale, like, we got to get rid of the old man in the logo. We got to get rid of the barrel. We got to change the peg game so that now the peg game doesn't offend people if you lose at the little stinky game. The rocking chairs have to leave at the chessboard. We're going to replace them with leather. We're going to make the whole thing, like, it was this cascade of stupid. And that's how they've gotten themselves into this position. And I don't know what they do to get out of it. I don't know how they get forgiven for this.
I think, first of all, I think they took the boiling frog off of the menu, just to point that out.
Darn it. Doc Hoppers, why can't you come back to Cracker Barrel?
With Cracker Barrel, the whole idea is the throwback. It's like saying in the first reviews of Happy Days, if they said, you know what they need to do? They need to set this in the 1980s. Or setting Mad Men in modern day New York instead of in the era that it's supposed to be set in the 1960s. This is, the Chip and Joanna Gaines comment is the most accurate comment because this looks like what Waco, Texas looks like right now. This is the kind of thing where it's that barn chic. You're using the old timey stuff as a decoration, as an accent to your modernistic approach to things, as opposed to kind of celebrating that old timey stuff. It's more like it's a centerpiece. We're going to put it in the table because it whatever.
That was a nice draw you had there, Jonas.
Well, I'll tell my Alabama relatives that I tried to use it today. The point is, when you go into a Cracker Barrel, the intention is to get old timey food because old timey food is better. I don't think anyone disagrees on that. For all of the things that newer styles are trying to do, they're trying to mimic that older style. When they do Impossible Meat, what are they trying to do? They're trying to get it to taste as much like the old stuff as they can, which Impossible Meat, I don't know who they're trying to bring in with that. It's not the Cracker Barrel audience.
Cows are big supporters of Impossible Meat.
I'm not convinced they are, considering all the things that I wouldn't be surprised if all of the things that all the farmland that gets used up trying to build Impossible Meats are actually detrimental to the raising of dairy cows. If you go into a Cracker Barrel, it's supposed to be the kind of thing where they market on the old stuff, not market on fashion, not market on, oh, I'm going to redecorate my house with this. It is a 50-year difference between the audience they were going for and the audience that they're trying to court now. And I'm not sure that audience they're trying to court now actually exists and wants to go to Cracker Barrel. That audience wants to go to First Watch. If that audience wants mojitos, I don't think anyone's bringing up Cracker Barrel on the front of that list.
Kevin, what do you think about the emergency meetings that we're hearing? We can't prove these are happening, but I've talked with multiple individuals who say they are happening. It's not proof. But what do you think about the idea that if they are, that Cracker Barrel is having emergency meetings in their stores with their servers because clientele may have went poof?
Of course. The people who get impacted by bad decisions in the boardroom are the people who are on the ground. It's your rank and file frontline employee. So the person who's going to feel this lunacy the most and the fastest and the hardest, there are going to be your servers, your bussers, your hostess or host, and the guys in the kitchen and your bartenders. They are the first. They're your first line of defense, and they're the first to get sacrificed to this corporate lunacy. And listen, I know people want to be shocked by this, but this woke, I would even say a global homo dystopianization, has been going on since the mid 90s. This didn't happen overnight. This was a very slow burn. It's a very slow burn. These people do not like the parts of American culture and tradition that we all hold very dear. And some people don't even realize that they hold it dear until it's gone. But that's not what these people want. They want They want their Soylent and Green, cosplay. You're gonna go to this place. You're lucky if you have two tones. You're gonna eat this swill, and you're gonna be happy about it. And don't ask for seconds. Kevin,
can we twist this somehow so we get the red cups back at Pizza Hut? Can we somehow we need to piggyback this thing together so we can get some multiple changes at favorite iconic restaurants? I want the red cups.
Well, this is so funny that this is all being brought up now, because I was researching into this, and I was doing a little bit of deep dive because I really wanted to know the history of these moves and so forth. When that $700 million figure was first introduced,
it's a lot of money, Vash. It's a lot of money for a company that's barely worth more than $1 billion.
Right, and I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen right now. This is put together by Azra Nomani here on X, and apparently she documents how investor Sardar Biglari told Cracker Barrel back in 2024 this was going to be a disaster. Let me make my position clear. The company's $700 million remodel plan will not work. Even put together a whole program a month earlier telling everybody that this was going to be a disaster. A catastrophic result was going to be the end result of something like this. And he also owns Steak and Shake. So maybe that's why they put out a statement like this.
I just got to say, go back to that prior one. That's a great connection. We're about to break. Vash, you've earned your weight in gold here, sir. Hang on a second. I find it funny though. I can't lose the irony that it's Sardar Biglari. We're all mispronouncing it. We know it. We're sorry. But yes. Sardar Biglari is the guy who's defending the Tennessee Corporation to serve, beans and greens and grits. Okay, go to the connection, Vash. This is. I had no idea this was the case. Who is this guy?
Yeah, so he was an investor, a big time investor into Cracker Barrel, and after the company laid its plans out and said we're going to go with the $700 million rebrand and modernize it and do all this stuff, I mean, he was very clear. He put together an entire presentation. He gave multiple warnings. This will not work. This will not. What is this right here? He says
he called it. By the way, I just saw in that last slide. He said, here it is. It's here as well. 70% of market value was spent on this gamble. Good Lord.
Yes. My advice to the CEO was that she should avoid falling into the textbook trap of overspending on cosmetic remodeling to stem guest traffic declines. That this was going to be bad. This was that getting rid of the heritage and legacy of Cracker Barrel was not the way to go. And he made this point multiple times. They went forward with it anyway, and that's why you had Steak and Shake.
Because he owns what?
He owns Steak and Shake.
Now makes sense. I didn't understand. I could not understand why Steak and Shake. I was happy with it. It's fantastic. It's hilarious. I could not understand why Steak and Shake was nailing Cracker Barrel. Mark, this is fantastic stuff. Steak and Shake is owned by the guy who's over there at Cracker Barrel saying, "Don't do it."
Yeah, I watched the whole time. I laughed my butt off on some of those Steak and Shake tweets, and now it makes a heck of a lot more sense. I wanted to poll on this so bad, but quite frankly, they caved so fast that we had to pull our poll. So, I mean, it's like Trump came out. Now it's turned into this thing between Trump and Gavin Newsom. It's really wild. But I feel sorry for them. This is probably going to destroy the company. This is not how you fix a brand. They should have closed underperforming stores. They should have improved the customer experience, should have done some customer research. But at the end of the day, it's like maybe people don't want your product anymore. And that's probably what happened to Pizza Hut. And it's like, okay, well, not every corporation in America has to grow 100% of the time. Are you really going to water everything down And does everything have to be exactly the same and grow all the time? And I don't know what they're going to do now because, like you pointed out, Pro, they're probably stuck on this. They've probably signed contracts and made commitments, and now it's like 100% of their market capitalization. And the problem for them is if Bud Light's any guide, they're going to be under the microscope for a year now. Like everybody's going to be looking at every single thing they do and critiquing it. And I don't understand how that woman stays employed. I just don't. And quite frankly, probably most of their SVP layer has to go because they all probably bought into this. So it's sad. But I guess I'll just get good at making my own chicken and dumplings at home.
They're not easy. Listen, of all the things you can learn of Southern cooking, chicken and dumplings are not easy to make from scratch. By the way, I'll say this one last thing about what they did with Cracker Barrel. You know, they fundamentally misunderstood what it is they're selling. And the way that I know that is, I've talked to some people as we've been doing research for the Cracker Barrel stories. It turns out that this lady apparently was one of the driving forces behind putting alcohol in Cracker Barrels. They had been a dry, quote unquote, dry restaurant before. And the problem is that in any kitchen with any restaurant, there's only a certain amount of space back there for inventory and all of that. So what did they get rid of in order to make way for the alcohol to go into these stores and their kitchens? It's not like they added on giant refrigerators or anything to these buildings. No, they got rid of the space that was being used for specialty drinks that made Cracker Barrel special. Things like giant frosted mugs with apple cider or root beer floats, or these things that were distinctly part of the fundamentals of what makes a Cracker Barrel a Cracker Barrel.
The
and
kind
the problem
of thing
is
that a grandparent might share with a grandchild.
Exactly. And so the problem is, Jonas, that if you're just looking at the numbers and you say, how do we get our margins up? Math alone says, yeah, that's a good idea, bringing alcohol because higher margins. But the problem is that's a fundamental misunderstanding of what Cracker Barrel is, considering that now the same people who would have been there getting the apple ciders and the root beer floats and all of that, they're not buying the mimosas. And anybody with any knowledge of how a Cracker Barrel works could have told you that if people want to go get a mimosa, they don't think I'm going to Cracker Barrel to get a mimosa. They're going to the little breakfast cafe in downtown. It's a completely different clientele. They missed it 1,000%. Missed it completely. And now the only thing I think they should be serving at Cracker Barrel is this. As ever, folks, we endeavor to have a good time here on the Pro Channel, and I have to say that spending time with you, talking about things that truly matter, like the stories that shape our lives and our culture, well, it is the ride of a lifetime to steal from Bob Iger. And that's the only thing we'll steal from Bob because he has great security around his yacht. Folks, as we get ready to say goodbye, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, click it, and stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment right on down below. Let us know your thoughts. We would love to hear from you. And folks, worry not, for more content is still on the way. 3 or 4 times a day. Let's do 4. I think that's better. And you know what? Don't forget that the Pro Show is live Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon Eastern. You can also join us for our friends on That Park Place, our partner program. We have a good time there too. Folks, until the next time we get the opportunity to have a good time with you, keep learning, keep growing, and as ever, keep having fun.
Jump into the water. Why listen to music made by people and companies who really don't like you? Check out Vacation Radio today and prepare for all new content made by the people behind the WDW Pro Channel. It's the place you need for all the music. That should be fun. Hundreds of songs, every genre you can imagine. Listen live on YouTube and enjoy a set list that's always sunny. It's Vacation Radio. What are you waiting for? Every WDW Pro video has a link to Vacation Radio in the video description. Try it out and subscribe today.